Welcome to the Association 100 podcast. The A100 podcast is an extension of our Association 100 bi-monthly newsletter that focuses on best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies and tactics that work in the world of associations. The podcast will feature meaningful conversations with association professionals across the country, taking a deeper dive into trending topics, offering insights that both inform and inspire.
Welcome back for our latest episode of the Association 100 podcast. We are broadcasting live from the ASAE conference here in Atlanta. I'm your host, Meghan Henning, and I'm joined by my co-host, Keaveny Hewitt. I'm excited to welcome our guest today, Jeanne Wolf, CEO at CFA Society of Boston. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So can you just tell us a little bit about your association and your members?
Absolutely. So CFA Society Boston is a 6,000 plus member society for investment professionals in Boston. We are part of a larger global organization, CFA Institute, and there's 160 societies across the globe like us doing the same thing we are. Our members are primarily investment and asset managers, so anybody managing your 401k money to institutional money to foundations and endowments for universities.
That's great. So I feel like recently everyone is talking about diversity and inclusivity, and we know that they're important. So talk to us about some of the key initiatives and strategies you've developed to foster this within the investment community.
Absolutely. This is a personal passion of mine, but it is also a strategic pillar of CFA Society Boston. It's not just part of what we do, it is one of three major things that we do. We find it so important when you look at the investment profession and it doesn't represent the community as a whole. And it is our goal to make sure that we change that. Change is slow.
Yes.
Change is very slow, I'm sure, but we look at law, we look at accounting, we look at the medical profession, and they've been successful in diversifying their profession and the membership organizations that are within them. So that's what we're striving to. And we know we have a long way to go, but with some of the initiatives and objectives that we have, we think that we're moving the needle forward as fast as we can.
So I think this is great, and I feel like there's a lot of people that are doing this. One of the things that I find challenging when you think about it, how do you measure the success and impact of these efforts?
Gosh, it's, I think, the $1,000,000 question that everybody asks.
Yeah.
How do we measure it? I think in the way we do it, we're measuring it both qualitatively and quantitatively. So we're not doing it just from did we increase the number of women or African Americans or underserved communities at our events or in our membership. We think there's qualitative pieces as well, which is, do people feel included, and do we have representative leadership who is engaging with us at events, at the board level, on committees. And so while it's hard to measure some of it in pure numbers, we do that as well. So we are looking at the candidate numbers for the CFA exam, and that has increased about 10% over the last 10 years.
Wow.
And we think that that's a huge win. It has not moved the needle in our membership, so the pipe is open, but there's a clog somewhere in that pipe, and we got to figure out where that is, and so that's what we're looking to do.
I love that answer, because I don't think it could ever just be the numbers.
No.
That is never going to be how we can measure it.
Correct.
So I love that.
Correct.
So going off of that, how do you guys collaborate with other stakeholders and partners to really amplify these DEI initiatives and projects?
So we have a lot of different initiatives and partners. Let me talk about our undergraduate women in investment internship program.
Okay.
That's a partnership among our organization, our staff organization, the members of the society, so investment firms, and then the universities that have the students who participate in the internship program. And it has historically been undergraduate women in investment management.
Okay.
That's starting to shift to be more of a diverse internship program, so we're not focusing just on women. When we started, women was the easy market to start with, and we could see the success there. We could measure the success there and then move on and add more underrepresented individuals in that program. And that it takes the universities who we need to have good relationships with them so that we can promote the scholarships. We need to have good relationships with our employers because they're the ones who are saying, yes, we're going to make that leap and participate in your program, even though they all have their own programs,
Right.
they all have their own processes, and nobody likes to really mess with processes.
Yes.
And that's been a hurdle, but we keep increasing. We started with 4 universities and 4 employers 6 years ago, and we are up to, I think, 10 universities
Oh, wow.
and colleges in the Boston area.
Well, that's great.
There are a lot of schools, universities
Yes.
in Boston.
Yes.
So we're up to 10, and then with employers, I think we've doubled it. We're at 8 employers, and we're, again, trying to keep
Right.
that moving forward.
That's
And
great.
that's just so important too, because having been an intern many times, it's just so valuable for mentorship as well, and especially fostering that within the industry too. I'm sure is so valuable for all the students and all the interns.
Absolutely. And what's also important in that group is that now we have built a cohort. So we've built a cohort of interns that now have each other
Oh, that's
Nice.
great.
to learn from, to talk about their successes and maybe struggles, and how to navigate an industry that is over 80% male. And there's an opportunity there for them to build their own peer network that they're going to grow in the industry with and succeed with not just mentorship from above, but mentorship from peers.
Great, which is great. So you've been providing financial literacy to underserved communities in the greater Boston community for nearly a decade. Can you tell us and our listeners about some of the programs and the educational resources you offer?
I love our financial literacy program. It came about a decade ago, and it was sort of by happenstance. We had a chair who saw her son teaching in New York public schools, and her son on Friday afternoons would spend 10 minutes and with the students, and they would do some kind of financial literacy game because they were younger students. And our chair was an investment professional, and she said, we have 6,000 members, all with this amazing knowledge of financial literacy, financial education, financial management, personal finance. Why don't we take that and give back to the community through a financial literacy program? And it has been running ever since. The way we see impact there, that we're measuring success, is not how many people did we teach, it's how effective were the partnerships that we worked with.
Oh, that's great.
So our preference is to do multiple times. It's not just a one and done where we go in and say, here's a stock and here's a bond. What it is to say, here's kind of the basics of financial literacy. So we have a progression of courses that we like to offer, that we say to people, this is what we think you need when they come to us and say, we need something, what is it? And so we have a progression of courses with, it starts out very, very basic, and then you see more, what are the stock markets like, and how can I invest in that? But before you can get to that, some of these groups we work with, they don't have a checking account.
Oh,
and
wow.
so you can't get to the stock market before you have a
just start
checking
at square
account.
one.
I think that's so great because you think about all the different programs that are in school and you don't have this. I just think of myself growing up, and I did not have a savings account as a child, but my child does. And we have put in money, and together we've done that, and I just think that that's amazing. So with some of those initiatives, how have you tailored them to address this with the different communities? Because there are these levels of people who as you said, don't have a checking account. And then I'm assuming you've got people who have maybe a little bit of knowledge, but not enough knowledge to plan their retirement or something like that.
Right. And, I don't have statistics with me right now, so I'm not going to say any.
Sure.
But the retirement is a huge issue in the country. It is not just in Boston, not
Yes.
just with the groups that we collaborate with. It is across the board a big issue. And so we work with people at all levels. One of our partners is the library system in Massachusetts. So we hold sort of community programming at the libraries for financial literacy. So that could run the gamut of what an attendee looks like, a participant looks like, and where their savings level is or what their financial knowledge is. So we do have to be careful in how we're addressing it, but we have volunteers who are creating this content, volunteer members, it is all volunteer-led, and they're creating this content, and they know how to adjust to
Nice.
each group. Another group we work with, and I think this one is very powerful, is the Massachusetts Correctional Institutions.
Okay.
So we are working with prisoners, and we are bringing financial education to the prison system. And that, I also think, touches on that diversity, equity, and inclusion piece.
Yes.
And they're people who, when they get out, they will have trouble navigating in a world and getting jobs.
Yes.
So that has been very, very unique in that regard.
I love that.
That's fascinating. And going off of that, do you have any transformative stories or any stories of people who have really succeeded from this program or gotten a lot out of it?
Yes and no. Quantitatively, we don't have a story yet where somebody went on to be a financial genius and whiz and invest in the stock market and do super well. But I think probably the most transformative story of our financial literacy initiative is one of our partners is a women's domestic violence shelter. Now, these are women who they have a lot going on.
Yes.
They're worried about their safety. They have young children often. They're trying to find permanent housing and not live in a domestic violence shelter. And yet, these women are coming to a session on financial literacy. They're empowering themselves to say, this is important, I can do this. And they bring their babies. And so the human touch in that, to me, is transformative in and of itself.
Yes. In some respects, that's giving them financial freedom, right? Because that is going to give them freedom and independence to get a better existence than what they currently have. I love that.
It's so important.
Absolutely.
So now switching gears completely to some fun lightning round, just for fun questions. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Dubuque, Iowa.
Okay.
I am a Midwesterner, born and raised, and somehow migrated to Boston via Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Washington, D.C. And I thought I'll never stay in Boston longer than a year. And 24 years later, I am still in Boston, and I miss the Midwest very, very much. But our home is in Boston now.
That's great.
What is your go-to Starbucks order?
If you can believe it, I am not a coffee drinker.
I'm not either.
I love that. There's very few of us left in the world with Starbucks on every corner. But in the cold winter months in New England, you can sometimes find me getting a hot chocolate to warm up and feel like I'm part of the Starbucks crew.
Exactly.
I thought you were going to say you were not a Starbucks fan because you were a Dunkin' Donuts fan, being from Boston.
Well, I have not developed an accent yet,
Yes.
but there is a Dunkin' Donuts. When they say there is one on every street corner, they are not lying. I can see a Dunkin' Donuts out my front window.
Wow,
So it is very
It really
true.
is.
So if you won the lottery tomorrow, would you still work?
I would still work, but the work would look very different. Our family has some causes that are very near and dear to us, and one of them being children's mental health. So we have vowed to pay it forward for all of the help and support we have gotten over the years, and we will pay that forward. And I also might coach my little niece and nephews in soccer. You know, sort of a life goal to be able to do that in my semi-retirement. But yes, I would continue to do work. It would just look different.
Yes.
Perfect. What is the last show that you binge watched?
So I'm going to go with Jeopardy, which is fascinating because people probably don't think of that as a binge-watching show, but in our house we record the episodes and none of us are really ever home at the same time. Everybody's coming and going, but the nights that we are, we will sit and watch multiple episodes of Jeopardy back to back as a sort of a family thing. But if you want a real show, Never Have I Ever is the last one I binged.
Okay, I don't think I've heard of
I know,
that.
so write that down.
Okay.
And then
Excellent.
what is a food you can't live without?
Peanut M&Ms.
Those are my favorite. Much better than peanut butter M&Ms. Have you ever
Yes,
had
I would
those?
agree with that
Those
too.
are not
I
good.
like those too. I like all M&Ms, but peanut is
They're
that's my
superior.
go-to.
And then last but not least, what is your bucket list travel destination?
I have so many. That's the hardest one. I can't believe you said it has to be my bucket list. I mean, I have a whole list. I have been to, I think, 46 of the 50 U.S. states.
Wow.
But I have not been to Hawaii. And I want to go to Hawaii so badly. And at some point, I will get there.
That's great. You're the second person to say that to us today.
Yep.
So yeah, Hawaii.
Popular
Maybe
choice.
if you're listening, ASA people.
There was a meeting in Hawaii years and years and years and years ago, and unfortunately my association did not have a budget for it. Now that I make the budget, that would be in the budget.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. I know our listeners are going to enjoy this, and I love what you're doing. We both do. This is great.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Association 100 podcast, brought to you by the A100 publishing team, powered by Onward and Upward Marketing and Communications. You can subscribe to the Association 100 podcast on Spotify so you'll never miss out, or listen via our website at theassociation100.com. Follow us for all the latest insights and trends impacting the world of associations. Thanks for tuning in.